Hello, it is Matthew from Dead to Rights. Uh, I've been thinking about anxiety recently. Can you guess why? Yeah, that's right. I'm anxious. Um, I'm not particularly anxious, and in fact, my anxiety typically does not show very much. I'm usually not an anxious person. I'm not. Um, but sometimes things happen that I do get anxious about. And sometimes that anxiety is maybe warranted, and sometimes it's not warranted. But um, I suppose in a Christian sense, you would say that anxiety is never warranted. Of course, we would have to define what that really means, anxiety, because anxiety is a natural human response to things in the future that you don't know about or that you wonder about. But Jesus teaches us a lot about anxiety, about what not to worry about, not to worry about clothing or food, for God will provide those things for us, not to worry about tomorrow, not to worry about the extent of our lives, not to worry about money and possessions. These are all things not worthy of our time and our thoughts. Well, I think that most things in life that we are anxious over, we are experiencing an unhealthy anxiety for. And I don't really have anything particular that I want to say in this. I just was anxious, uh, and so I wanted to talk about anxiety a little bit because it helps me to think through these things in a biblical and Christ-like way. And listen, this isn't just for Christians. I mean, it's not good for anyone to be anxious. Jesus says, and I think, obviously, I think it's pretty wise because he's Jesus, but um, even setting aside the nature of Jesus, if anyone were to have said this, I would have considered it wise. How many of you, by worrying, can add a single day to his life, right? What is my worry about tomorrow going to do? And now, it's not the same thing as preparation, right? I mean, if an army is going to war tomorrow, well, it probably does them good to prepare for that battle, for that war. Um, it does not do the army very good to be sleepless about that war or to be overly concerned about whether they'll win or the outcome. They simply need to prepare for what they're about to undergo. I mean, that to me makes sense. But anxiety is something completely different for us. It's not so much preparation, but more uh, a failure to understand that we don't have any control over the things in our future and in our lives. That there are things beyond us that we can't see and we can't know, and those things make us fearful, make us anxious, give us a feeling in our stomach like our stomach is turning. And this has negative consequences on our minds and on our bodies. It puts undue stress on our hearts and on our bodies. Our minds become preoccupied and unable to focus on the things of today. And that to me, I think is one of the biggest reasons, even setting aside the physiological um, responses to stress and anxiety. You have just the response of I'm spending my time thinking about things that aren't worth my time that I can't do anything about. What am I going to be able to do by worrying about a procedure or a medical outcome or a diagnosis or whether I'm going to be fired at my job or whether someone is going to come into my house and steal my possessions and kill me or my family or that I'm going to see some kind of mass violence at the mall when I go there. These things aren't worth our time because there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do with these thoughts. And further to the point, well, I'll continue that point. Many people have families. There's very few people who have no family whatsoever. Most people at least have a mother and a father or a brother and sister. There are many people who have children and wives and husbands. And these things take a lot of our time and a lot of our effort, and it's not fair. It's not fair to the people around us in our communities and in our families that we should be so preoccupied with things that worry us and concern us that we would forget that there are people in our lives that need us and need our attention. My son needs my attention daily, and I owe him that as his father. It's important for him that he would have a father that is present in his life. And so anxiety does not serve my family well. It doesn't serve my child well. It doesn't serve my wife well, that I would not be able to help her because I'm so anxious about things in the future. And further to the point, it doesn't help my faith. Can I be anxious and believe in a good God who knows all things and has my life uh, planned for his glory and for my good? And let's not misunderstand that my good does not always mean the best thing today, but it means my good for eternity. The trials and the hardships of this life produce in me a patience and a long suffering attitude that I can persevere through this life and through the trials and hardships of this life. And that by being anxious, I'm not persevering. That's not perseverance. Anxiety is not persevering through hardship. It is letting hardship that you haven't even experienced take your mind off of God. And how silly is that? I haven't even experienced hardship, and yet I am so convinced that it takes my mind off of God and off of His goodwill for my life. Well, it's such a it points to a weakness of my faith and of my trust in my God. Now, obviously, if you don't believe in Jesus, this is hard to grasp. And even if you could grasp it, it doesn't really do you any good because you don't even know who He is and you have no relationship with Him, although you should. And so the physiological and the time, the considerations on my time, that's worthy to think about as an unbeliever, as someone who doesn't believe in Jesus or doesn't have faith in God. But if I really want to get down to the purpose of my existence is to know and honor and trust and serve God with all of my being, with everything in me. Then anxiety goes against those things because it causes me to think about what can be done in my life versus to think about what God is doing in my life. Well, what can I do about this procedure and what can I do about this diagnosis or if my job were to fire me? What value are those thoughts? Again, I'm not talking about preparation. Now, I don't know why you would be preparing to be fired in general unless you're doing something wrong. Maybe you are prepared for a bad turn in the economy. But I would still consider that much of our preparation is led by anxiety and possibly it's not good. Or at the very least it's not fully in line with the teachings of Jesus. How's the economy going to go? How are my investments going to go this year or next year? And I'm so preoccupied with where my money ought to be, as if God doesn't know. And God can't multiply your money if He wanted to. When am I going to feed my family? Am I going to be able to have enough money for Christmas to buy my children gifts? See, I'm challenged just in my own life. Do not be anxious in anything, but in everything with prayer and supplication make your request known to God. He cares for you. Put your burdens on Him, for He cares for you. And His yoke is easy, His burden is light. You see, these are the things that our God has taught us, that my God has taught us, the God of the universe has taught us. And so often I fail to recognize just how far I have fallen into anxiety. And like I said at the beginning, I'm not typically an anxious person. I don't have many sleepless nights. I typically don't think much beyond tomorrow or much beyond today, even. Now, the reason I'm anxious is because I have something tomorrow. I mean, honestly. But it is not fit for a Christian to be anxious. More than all people. More than all people in the world, we should be the least anxious and the most hopeful. What if I get that cancer diagnosis? What if I lose my job? What if I can't feed my family? Well, God will provide. God's grace is sufficient for me, even in this. And what have I to fear? What am I afraid of? Am I afraid that cancer would destroy my body? Or that a robber would come and destroy my family? Am I afraid that I might lose all of my earthly possessions? That I might have to go with a little bit for a little while? Why am I worried about those things? Has God not promised me a land and a home beyond this earth? Of riches beyond comparison that he's going to give to all the people who love him. Now, I don't mean money. I don't mean monetary riches. I mean the actual riches of life. A closeness with God, a relationship through Jesus, a loving grace and mercy for today, a peace and assurance of all things in life, a confidence in the good and the bad, and an unwavering attitude toward life. That nothing in all this life, whether angels or demons or princes or powers or governments, no economic disaster, no natural disaster, no violence of man can ever take me from the love of God. And if He loves me, if He is for me, then who can be against me? Who can stand against the anointed of the Lord? No one. No one can. You might think you can in this life. Cancer might do its work and its damage on this body, but I'll have a new body. Some mental disability might have its effect on my mind, but only for a little while. You might come into my home and threaten me with my life, or my family with their lives. You might accuse me of all kinds of wrong and evils unjustly. The government might come and oppress me, but what can they do? Can they take my joy and my glory that comes from God? Can they take anything from me that God can't give me 100 times what they took? No, if I leave my father and my mother and my house and my land and my people and all my possessions, then God has promised to give me much more than what I gave up. And if I lose all things for his sake, he's promised to restore all things 10 times what I've lost. So I have nothing to fear. I shouldn't fear the thing tomorrow, or the thing today, or the thing that I don't even know is tomorrow, the thing that I'm just making up in my mind. I can't fear these things. I can't be anxious about these things. It's not fit for me as a believer. What can I do? Am I going to add a single day to my life? No. Am I going to add a hair to my head? Obviously not. Am I going to add $1 to my paycheck by worrying? Am I going to add a grain of rice to my plate? Oh, in fact, I'm going to take those things away. See, here's the truth about anxiety. The more you're anxious, the more you lose. You think you're going to gain something, but you don't. You lose it. You lose time with your family. You don't gain a day, you lose them. I lose my time with my son when I'm anxious and I don't think about him. I lose my time with my wife. At the very least, it's not meaningful. My body and the physiological responses, I lose days. You have more of a chance. You increase your chance for things like heart attacks and strokes by worrying and being anxious. See, anxiety doesn't do anything but kill you. It kills you in the end, both in your body and in your soul. So don't be anxious. Don't worry about this life or the things in it, what you're going to eat, or what you're going to wear, for our Father knows what you need. He knows exactly what you need and exactly how to provide it. And if he cares about the birds, if he cares about the sparrow, how much more value are you to him than many sparrows? God's desire is to have a fatherly relationship with us. He would he would supply all of our needs. And it is good and right to trust him, even in the difficulty, even in the trials and the hardships of life. To know that he is good, that there is good beyond this life. This life is short. The next one is forever. And he knows exactly what we need to give us the best life, to give us perseverance today so that we can live forever with him tomorrow. Have a great day. Um, Again, I didn't have a plan for this one. I was just talking because I was dealing with this myself. And um, anyways, I hope you have a blessed day. Oh gosh, I just ran. Um, have a great day, and I will talk to you tomorrow or whenever. See y'all.